What it do, you guys? Welcome back to another episode. I am back, and I'm going to be here to give you my post preseason reactions to Game One, which was the Denver Broncos versus the Indianapolis Colts. And of course, this is just the preseason, so we don't need to overreact to anything to a certain extent of being crazy. But we can still talk about the game and share our thoughts of what happened or transpired before us. It was a good show to watch. It was exciting towards the end. We had some highlights and we had a lot of lowlights, but it's okay at the end of the day. It's just the preseason. We're just here to evaluate the players going into the new season and what we need to expect from this team going forward. Now, of course, the Broncos did win this game if you did not notice. The Broncos beat the Colts 34 to 30. It was a good show. But we started off with Anthony Richardson getting some runs in. It was a good sight to see because he missed all of last year pretty much with an injury being out. Just to see him on the field was a huge thing. It was something nice to see and something to watch for sure. He wasn't out there for that long. Had a few plays, pretty much 50-50, 50%. He had some reads to make. He was some good throws. He ran it just a little bit, but it was just out of bounds. Some of his passes did sail, but like I said, this is nothing of the extent of being shocked because if you was evaluating the training camp with us, it was the same thing pretty much. We did want to see more of Anthony Richardson, honestly, just because he missed pretty much all of last season with injury. But having him out there was just it was a good sight to see. Jonathan Taylor was out there as well. We got a first glimpse of the AR and JT duo. Of course, it wasn't that long of gameplay. It was just like maybe one drive and a half. But JT didn't really do much either. They were all talking about during the mid interview how they wanted to be out there on the field more. But like I said, it's just the preseason. You don't want to risk anything. It's new turf as well. But I definitely think just Anthony Richardson being out there, in my honorable general opinion. Sorry, in my general opinion, honestly, I think him just knocking off Rust was more of the issue than anything. Like I said, he was a little rusty. He hasn't really played another team. It's just been going up against his guys most of the time. They still do have joint camps coming up in the future, but like I said, I think it was him just knocking off Russ. So you can't really go overboard and talk about how his general gameplay is going to be affected going into the actual season. Like I said, it was just Russ more than anything. I think with more consistency with him being on the field and why he should be playing would definitely solve this issue. Um, but other than that, Jonathan Taylor didn't really do much either. We've seen a good impression of Latu. Latu was out there for the first preseason game, and I think Latu really shown flashes. I've seen him getting doubled early, and that's a huge sign of what how effective he can be going into the season. And of course, Forrest Buckner did not play today. He decided to rest, and Julius Brents is recovering from an injury. He did not play either. It's not a lingering injury; it's the shoulder injury, but I think he'll be fine when it comes into the season. If he had an option to play today, he would have. That's what they said per reports. So we did miss Juju Brent's production today as well, because I will tell you, talking about the DBs, the secondary was it was food today. Definitely was food. Watching them going up against the Broncos. Dallas Flowers had a really bad game today. Darrell Baker Jr. had some flashes. And a lot of people remember Darrell Baker Jr. from last year's training camp and preseason when he shown some flashes. When they got into the season, of course, that wasn't the case, but he definitely showed flashes in this game. So shout out to Darrell Baker Jr. But Dallas Flowers just did not know where he was all game. He was struggling. There was a lot of flags, a lot of holding calls on Flowers, and it was just. And then there was one play where Nick Cross, we're about to talk about next. Nick Cross pretty much took the handoff on the jet sweep and wound up putting Nick Cross in a bad position to cover it, and the Broncos wound up scoring. I think Nick Cross was trying to communicate with Dallas Flowers to pretty much take the handoff and that he'll be in a better position to make the play. But it was miscommunications, and it led to Nick Cross being scored on. I think Nick Cross has been impressive all training camp and even in the first preseason game, just being at the right spot at the right time, making some good tackles. There was a play where he could have caught an interception, but he didn't wind up doing it. But it was still called a pass breakup. I think Nick Cross has pretty much solidified his spot or where he wants to be going on into the season. Pretty much wants to be the starting safety, and I think he deserved the spot right now. As of right now, it's him and Rodney Thomas, and you got Ronnie Harrison Sr. and then Julian Blackman. But in the starting safeties positions, if I had to choose, it'll probably be Julian Blackman and Nick Cross. I will want Ronnie Harrison Sr. to go back to the linebacker position where he was previously. But I don't make the rules. Other than that, we got injury updates. We got Trey Sermon with the left hamstring, and then Trent Penix, which is pretty much a practice squad running back. He went down later on in the game with a groin injury, which is unfortunate. But moving on, we got to see Sam Ellinger today. Sam Ellinger was a little bit iffy. I think he looked pretty smooth going on into the game with the scheme that they were running. He had some pretty good throws, and he was pretty mobile in the pocket as well on some play action reads. Joe Flacco was out there for a few snaps. He did not look comfortable at all when he was on the field, so was not a fan of that gameplay from Joe Flacco. Like I said, it was a short stint, but I think if he would have had a few more snaps and got a little bit more comfortable, you probably would have seen some more productions. When it comes to the wide receiver room, DJ Montgomery had a few plays, uh, a few good plays and good catches as well. But when Jason Bean came in the game, DJ Montgomery had a few drops as well. Jason Bean, I think, is the silent dark horse for the practice squad of the Colts. A lot of buzz coming around for Jason Bean's production. Jason Bean is really impressive coming out of college with the RPO scheme and option plays that he can run. I think Jason Bean could be very pivotal moving forward to this Colts practice squad. I think he's a practice squad quarterback. He is very elusive. His first snap, he pretty much took the run. He pretty much took the option play, ran it downfield, but there was a flag on a holding call, which pretty much pushed him back. And then he wound up running two more plays when he ran the ball, and then wound up throwing it. But you can tell how tired he was from the runs. And then he wound up sailing two passes, and then the third one was pretty much a fumble. But Jason Bean, I think, was pretty impressive. Kendon Kedon Salavis was another guy who pretty much was freshman of the year when he was in college. He had a few good throws as well, in my opinion. Honestly, I think he had a few good passes. There was other ones that sailed, but I think Salavis was very impressive in his debut of the preseason game for the Colts. When it comes to the running back room, I think Evan Hall pretty much won that today. We had a few good runs from Goodson. He wound up scoring a touchdown, but Evan Hall had a good production day as well. Goodson pretty much took over after Sermon went down, and he had a good high usage rate today as well. But the defensive side, it showed the interior defensive line without Grover Stewart and DeForest Buckner pretty much showed a weak spot on this Colts defense. They could not stop the toss play against the Broncos all game. Micah Abraham was very impressive today. He was a late pick, pretty short at the corner position, but he was one of my guys to watch going into this season, practice and training camp wise. I circled Micah Abraham being one of my favorite picks because I think he was so impressive. Speed wise and agility wise, athleticism wise, I picked Micah Abraham to be one of the guys to watch, and he pretty much showed out today. He got a touchdown on the fumble six. But Micah Abraham was really good, really good corner. Definitely short to be at the slot position, but he pretty much reminds me of Kenny Moore, but he's so freaking fast as well. Speaking of fast, we got to talk about Anthony Gould. Anthony Gould showed his fastness today against the Broncos and the return team. And definitely on offense, I think he can be a huge use moving forward. He's just shown his speed today. He was really good. But other than that, like I said, the interior defensive line without Buckner or Grover Stewart, the Colts are pretty much going to be in trouble. Latu again showed flashes today. Adetumbe Adewale was he's shown his abilities a little bit, and Titus Leo, I think when you look at Titus Leo's production today, he showed some flashes. Like I said, he's coming off an injury as well, and I think he showed some flashes against the Broncos, which is really good. But the overview of the situation, besides talking about Anthony Richardson, short gameplay, when you look at the secondary and the interior defensive line, it screams veteran play. I think we just need some more veteran players. There's a bunch of names out there in free agency that you can still acquire. I'm pretty sure they might be waiting for the worst case scenario to go out there and get someone, but there are still names available. Tashawn Gibson Sr. Jr. just went back to Jacksonville as of today's video. There's another safety off the board, but there's still a bunch of names. Justin Simmons and Micah Hyde of that nature. You still got Ford that used to play with the Packers out there that's available for the secondary room. But again, I mentioned when you look at this room and you see the names out there that are available, but you look at the Colts and you look at the depth chart, it's pretty much it's like worst case scenario, something that was to happen to the starters. Where does that leave your team? I think the lack of depth is definitely in conversation when it comes to these positions. And these positions I'm talking about is interior defensive line and the secondary, which is pretty much corner and safety. Of course, Roddy Thomas is a name that you mentioned in the safety room, but in the corner room, because Juju Brents did not play, you need somebody out there. Of course, if Juju was there, that makes a difference. We've seen the scheme difference, a scheme change today with Gus Bradley's scheme. You've seen the corners pressing a little bit more, which is something different that you used to seeing because you always felt like there was an prevent when it comes to regular season. But the scheme looked different as of today. Now, of course, this is just a preseason game, so you don't know all of the tricks, so they're not going to display it in the preseason game. But the defense did look a little bit different. I've seen some good flashes from Zaire Franklin today in coverage. He broke up a few plays, so shout out to Zaire. EJ Speed has some plays as well, but he got called for a face mask early. But like I said, it's just knocking off the rust. It's game one of the preseason. Of course, it's not going to be perfect, but both teams did put up 30 points. We did get to see Bo Nix today for Denver, and I think Bo Nix had himself a really good game. Of course, this is a preseason, and he's playing up against third string. But I think when you look at the throws that he were making, they were quite impressive. So you got to give him his flowers for that. Like I said, out of the quarterbacks, Keaton Salavis was my guy, go-to guy at the quarterback room for the Colts. Production-wise, Jason Bean could have had a good game, but he just got tired due to flags. But the flags for both sides of the football um, was definitely something for the Colts offensively and defensively. Defensively, they got a flag that pretty much put the game away. There was a false start encroachment flag called uh, later on in the game that pretty much pushed the Broncos into a first down territory, and that was very pivotal. So, I mean, like again, knocking off the rust, but the reserves are playing hard, man. Grant Stewart, shout out to Grant Stewart, but it was one of my favorite guys. He was playing hard out there today. The reserves definitely put the effort out there. Again, my go-to guys for offense and defense before we get up out of here. Uh, my honorable selection would be Evan Hall, but my go-to guys, one for offense was Keaton Salavis, and defense was Mike Abraham, just because of the impact he put out there on the field when he played. Both of those two guys definitely stood out in the game one of the preseason. You guys let me know your thoughts on your preseason game on the preseason game one between the Broncos and the Colts. But those are my two selections. We'll be back for week two moving forward, but you guys stay tuned. I am officially back. Appreciate you guys and all the continuous support. This is Culture Shock, and until next time, I will see you.